Nada. With crisis comes opportunity. So I'm here to talk about the opportunity that the housing crisis gives us. So we've had a model of housing in Aotearoa for decades that has been developer-led, that's been based on housing as an investment, as a commodity, and a very transactional activity. We now have an opportunity to do housing in a whole new way, or at least going back to an older way. We are now looking at housing again as being a home, as being a place to live and raise a family and have a great quality of life. We're looking at housing that is a means of creating community wealth, that is non-speculative, and that is more connected or collective housing. You might have heard the terms of co-housing, cooperative housing, pocket neighborhoods, eco-villages. These are all forms of intentionality that is put into both housing and neighborhood design. And this gives us many opportunities for what our housing could look like going forward. And all the different ways of doing land tenure and financing these models, like community lands trust and inclusionary zoning. Lots of opportunity, lots of new things for us to learn in this housing space. So I have created a checklist for success, or a planning tool that is for those who are either a resident-led housing group or a community housing provider, or even local government, central government that is providing housing. So any kind of housing that we want to do differently than we have done before, this planning tool is really helpful. So the basics of this planning tool are first tapping into the purpose, the potential, and the positive impact that we want any house or neighborhood to be able to have for residents and the larger community and the environment in which it is. So we've got a people, planet, and local economy in terms of positive impact. So we want to know, what is the vision, what are the principles by which we're building the values? And what framework are we using in terms of doing that? So those are the things that you can check to see, have you got those? If not, then that's something that Common Ground is very able to help you with. Then we have a process. Process is just as important because, again, we want it to be reciprocal and to be having an element of either community-led or community-focused. So that process is the opportunity to bring in not only future residents, but also the larger community to see how can this community add value to this larger ecosystem. We need group process facilitation because it is difficult getting a bunch of people to all make some agreements at least. And we want to be able to have a toolbox for effective processes like being able to make decisions together, resolve conflict, using of shared spaces. Our land legal policy is really important. We want to be able to get the right tenure model and to be able to accommodate and be inclusive. And there are many different tenure models. As I mentioned, the cooperative housing model, which is a means of owning a share in the cooperative company and then being able to have the right to live in a house, versus a co-housing where it might be a ownership of the building itself, but then shared commons around the house. So that's really important to get that right in the beginning. We also have the people side of it. What's the invisible infrastructure that we are building in order that people get the maximum quality of life from in this space? We have to have key relationships with stakeholders as well, so that we're able to have relationships outside of the community and how the community can benefit from other developments that are happening in the area. And then we've got our design. So we have our design for the land, and quite often permaculture is a great tool for that. Our design for the houses and how we're going to be able to situate the houses on the land and the infrastructure, which would be things like our roading, our power, our water systems, and whether we want to do any certification like Green Star or Living Futures that help us to have those standards and get that certification. And then we've got our financing. Our financing, hopefully we're going to be having a lot of reform with through our Reserve Bank and through our banking systems in the near future. There's a lot of advocacy going on at the moment for being able to have better financing systems for instance, non-speculative housing. And so that is something we need to look at, what's going to work for this particular new project that you've got. So if any of those things you would need guidance or help along with, That's what Common Ground is set up for, to help the groups to be able to advance their vision of being able to have a great quality of life in the kind of housing that they create. So I look forward to hearing from you. commonground.net.nz. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well to get more of these helpful tips. Kia ora.